the audio. Hopefully it's been fixed. It looks like it's been fixed from our end with our test recordings. So again, another introduction. This is Jay. This is Abby. They are mods from the Tran Discord. Would you all like to restate your pronouns?
He, they, she.
Primarily he, with they when I'm feeling spicy.
Amazing.
Spicy they gang.
Awesome. Hi, Gray. Hey, Quetzal.
Hi, guys. Also, I am not just sitting here being a degenerate. I have chat open on my phone.
Which is fantastic. The only other issue we're having is it's a little blurry in the background. Can't do much to fix that. My apologies. But
I'm
bright
an
side.
Eldritch being. I just don't register well on camera. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm something related to Bigfoot. I don't know how, but somewhere.
That's a mood.
I can't even say mood. I'm not that hairy.
I am.
Okay. So, this topic Tuesday is going to be talking about gender identity versus gender expression, why it's so important to get these fleshed out, why they're very clearly not the same thing, but both are super important, and why self-exploration is super important even whenever you get to a point where you think you understand yourself.
Right.
And I do want to give a quick shout out. One of the reasons I thought about doing this. Also, sorry if you hear kittens being kittens in the background. They want to get into the room so badly.
They are yelling and screaming.
They just want to knock over all of the audio equipment and destroy the room. That's all they want to do.
So, Clay, from the server, just in case you're watching this, you're actually one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, because you asked a question on the server of, if you're a trans man, can you still be masculine while doing feminine things? And if you enjoy doing feminine things, are you somehow less valid than those trans men that only do masculine things? So, Jaybird, Abby, one of the reasons I wanted y'all on here is both of y'all have a penchant for doing things both manly and quite feminine. Especially you, Abby. You are easily one of the most manly men I know, out there getting your fingers sawed into with a table saw
I
and
forgot about that.
spending
Falling through the ceiling.
Falling through the ceiling.
Trying to do house repairs.
spending all morning yesterday on the roof.
We have to repair the roof.
Yeah, patching a hole. Yet at the same time, you like makeup, you like nail polish, you like a lot of stuff. Sorry about that. So, Abby, for you, what exactly does gender expression mean?
For me, like, expression is more about, like, the vibe I give off, like, to other people. Where it's, like, more of an external, like, what other people see thing, as opposed to, you know, the what I am in my own head.
Yeah.
As, like, doing, like, more feminine things, like, they're only really feminine in the context of our society puts those values on them.
Right.
And so, like, it never registers as, like, or, well, it does register, but it doesn't stick for me as, like, oh, I'm doing a feminine thing.
Right.
Why am I not always doing the masculine thing? It's like, especially because I kind of came into my own on, like, Tumblr spaces.
Right.
But not in the shitty Tumblr spaces. Excuse me. The terrible Tumblr spaces.
Beep.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep swearing. Tumblr, like, has both really good and really terrible aspects. I ended up following a lot of, like, 30 and 40-somethings when I first got a Tumblr who were, like, fully done with everybody.
Right.
And we're just like, screw it. Here's how I am. Here's how I live. Y'all can think whatever you want about that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really helpful for me because it was like, okay. So, like, there's, like, the very, like, kind of essence of, like, being queer in my mind of, like, being yourself and fuck what other. Excuse me, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have a filthy mouth today. Being yourself and don't care what, like, people who are invested in making, like, the worst assumptions about you.
Right. Because that's something I've pointed out with some of my past streams, or one of my past streams, the one about TERFs, SWERFs, and other stuff like that. Especially when dealing with transphobes, you'll have a whole bunch of true scum say things like, oh, if you're trans, you can't do this or that. If you're a trans man, you can't be feminine, you can't keep doing these things, and, all of this, because it invalidates you, and it invalidates the trans movement, and, oh, what are they gonna think?
It's a very popular, that's a very popular, way of thinking for trans medicalists, too.
Yeah.
It's like if you do not adhere to what we consider the gender binary, then you are not valid and you are not really trans, which is a very damaging thought process. It's still something that I even have to unlearn.
And it's like, whenever you twist that around on its head, because, again, I used to be a Nazi. Frick Nazis. I'll happily kill a Nazi. Let's go Inglorious B words on this.
Yes, let's go punch a Nazi in the face.
Right? 100 Nazi
Especially in the
scalps.
I'll pull Steve Rogers. I don't give a crap.
But, I used to be a Nazi, and I can assure you, whenever I was a Nazi, it didn't matter how good someone was if they weren't white and Christian. The important thing was that they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, in my head, I would differentiate, oh yeah, that person is better than that person because of these qualities. But at the end of the day, it was just a whole bunch of concentric circles. If we got rid of this one outer circle, we'd just move on to the next, and the next, and the next. And even then, there were constant fighting within the in-group because it was constantly, oh, I'm even whiter than you. I'm even more Christian. I'm even more extreme than you. And that's the way it is with transphobes, and why there's no point in trying to validate yourself to them. They're gonna be transphobic. Transphobes gonna transphobe.
Yeah.
People are gonna be like, oh, but this will invalidate you in the eyes of the cis.
It's like,
We
by
are
our nature, we're
humans.
already invalidated by the nature of being what we are.
Also, why would we care about what cis people think if we're not cis?
Right.
It's like, yeah, sure, they're the ones who are preventing us from getting our medicine.
Right. Never once have I
Karen.
actually given a damn about what a cis person thought of me or my gender expression because it's none of their business.
Exactly. It's none of their business.
That's what gets me the most is people poking their nose into places and people's identities where they do not need to be. Especially people speaking as a non-binary person because I am openly non-binary. Non-binary. But even other binary trans people who say that they have some kind of authority on how non-binary people should express themselves or act or gender themselves or whatever, it's ridiculous, and frankly, I wish you a very stub your toe on a Lego.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Let me be who I am, and I'm not hurting you. So I think we're all good.
Right.
So Gray sent, we live in a society. And I love that.
Wrong.
Yeah.
We really do.
Also, can I talk about something real fast? The notion that non-binary people can only use they, them pronouns drives me up the wall.
Same.
It's my pronouns are my pronouns, and you do not get to choose them for me.
Right.
You do not get to dictate how I refer to myself. If I want to misgender myself in a humorous way, I will do it in a split second.
Right, I do that to myself all the time.
I literally called myself an aunt the other day, and then I had a crisis about why there is no gender-neutral word for aunt or uncle. But
I started using ankle.
Olivia called me an ankle, and I was like, no, I'm not an ankle.
Okay, so, Jay.
Yes.
Something I wanted to bring up with you. Because I've talked openly about the fact that you don't have to get something to respect it or to grow from it.
Right.
I don't get gender non-binary stuff. It makes no sense to me. But no matter what, I'm gonna die doing my best to respect you because I love you.
Right.
And you're a great freaking person. Now, sorry about that ding. My phone is right here. Super unprofessional. So,
Get your act together,
Oh, that's
phone.
that little thing. I was like, what
What?
is that?
What?
I noticed that pattern on there, and I thought it was like something on my screen, so I'm like,
Sorry.
is it on the screen, or is it on...
No, it's my pants.
Very loud, Leslie.
Very, very loud.
So, I don't get a lot of gender binaries, or non-binary stuff.
It's okay, I don't get the gender binary.
Mood. So, something I wanted to bring up. So, for gender non-binary people, it's like there's a totally different kind of gender expression that goes along with their identity.
Right.
Because I've noticed, especially among non-binary people that were raised in the Midwest, no offense,
You're not wrong.
but
My
like,
mom is from
there's a
Kansas.
huge difference between, like, each and every one of them. Some of them
Right.
are like Abby. They look just kind of casual.
Right.
Others are like you, where it's theatric, and it's not so much flaunting as you being very, I am going to look how I want. Do you have a problem with it?
I will
Kind
cause
of way.
problems on purpose, like with my
Right.
pants and Bryn's screen. In my defense, these are very comfy pants.
That's a mood. So, if I can, what exactly for you, as a very unique non-binary individual, that some transmed would probably call stereotypical,
A trans
because they're
gender
stupid.
is what I get a lot.
Oh, screw them.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love this trend. It costs so much money, and it costs more than the down payment on our house.
Yeah. It's a great time.
Great
I
time.
love
Fantastic
having all
trend.
this dysphoria.
Yeah.
Right?
See, the
Fun.
thing is that I personally have struggled with dysphoria for over 10 years now. I started realizing that I was ciscent around age 13 or so. But the thing is that I do not necessarily dress or act or express myself in the way that I do to quell the dysphoria. Sometimes I do.
Mhm.
If I'm dressing like much more masculinely, then I'm probably trying to like beat the dysphoria monster under the bed.
Yeah.
But I do it for the euphoria rather than to quell the dysphoria, because I believe that being trans is not inherently a suffering experience. It is simply being true to yourself. And yes, you do go through some things if you are a person who experiences dysphoria, because newsflash, not all trans people experience dysphoria. But for me, it's about feeling good in myself. One of my favorite book series is called The Raven Cycle, and the main character, she is not explicitly non-binary, but she is very like outside the box. And there's one line that has stuck with me for years now, and it's, I do not dress the way, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I don't dress the way I do for anybody else. I want to look on the outside how I feel on the inside. And that pretty much describes my fashion sense. Or like my expression as a whole, because it's like, I don't, for instance, when I was 12, my mom first showed me how to shave my legs, because I am an AFAB person, and that's just what you do societally, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that I had no desire to shave my legs. There was no point in this to me, Yeah, I said that right. And I decided that I wasn't going to. Yes, I have shaved my legs for like whatever reason. Sometimes I just want to know what smooth skin feels like, I guess. But like, that was one of the things for me growing up that was like a subtle rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did go through some times where it was like rude teenage boys would point out my hairy legs in like social studies class or whatever, but you can't even see because right. But it's but at the end of the day, for me it's almost like I like to think of my existence as a poison dart frog. I dress very loudly and very rudely to warn off potential predators, and so far it has worked.
That reminds me of a thing where it was one of those, like, MGTOW people being like,
Oh god, I haven't heard that MGTOW people.
okay, I'm going to switch over to the masculine voice that I've used for years just
Oh,
to make
God.
a point.
This
I
is
know,
so
it's
weird.
so weird. It is.
I've lived with her for 10 years. And
It's still weird.
weirds me out.
And how long did you know me before that?
I knew you for like 3 years before that.
Okay. Remember, men, whenever you see a woman that has brightly colored hair, tattoos, it's just like a poisonous animal out in the wild. you want to avoid that because it means that they're poisonous, and if you get near them, it's going to hurt you. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point, honey. The fact that you're sitting here and saying stuff like that means that it's working.
Right.
Apostodem is... I can't pronounce it.
What?
I can pronounce it in my head. I can't pronounce it in real life.
So
but that
funny.
phenomenon, it's not there to warn off potential mates that are crappy. It's to, like,
Warn off predators.
Right.
So it's working if you hate it.
Yeah, they're... I should make a whole video on things that people say, oh, you need to do this because it's clean, but really
yeah.
it's not.
It isn't. Honestly, if you just make sure that you moisturize and take care of yourself and shower on a regular basis, whatever that regular basis is for you, it's really no issue. I mean, my legs are still super soft. It's like, because I take care of myself.
Yes.
Body hair is not an inherently unhygienic thing.
It's not, and it's not a gross thing, it's not an ugly thing.
It can be soaped.
Right? Like,
you
straight
can
up,
wash
if-
your body just like you wash your hair. It's not difficult at all. You don't even have to use special shampoo for your body hair. Just use a body wash.
Yeah, just take your
bar of soap and it's not. Come on, people.
Yo, if I'm dating a person who is presenting themselves as feminine and they got body hair, that just means there's something for me to put my hands through whenever I'm cuddling. That's
Right.
all it means to me.
I feel like, and I will always say this,
Yeah.
because my not shaving my legs or like whatever I don't want to shave is my personal choice. But there are some people out there who are AFAB, AMAB, whatever, who do choose to shave, like Bryn. Bryn chooses to shave, and that's what she wants to do. That's how she feels comfortable, and that's her choice. And I will never demonize somebody for making a choice about their body, because it's their body and it's not my business.
Yeah.
I might be comfortable not shaving, but Bryn isn't necessarily, comfortable not shaving.
The hair causes dysphoria.
dysphoria machine cover.
Dysphoria machine do go burn.
What's funny for me is when I do shave my legs, it kind of causes me like euphoria because it's like, oh, look at all this hair
Right.
that I'm shaving off. It'll be back in 2 days.
Right.
Nice.
And then it clogs the toilet, the bathroom
So,
to fix it.
to move back to on topic a little bit. So, just to make sure that from this point forward we have a clear working understanding. So, gender identity is how you feel on the inside, who you are internally. Because we all have internal lives. Some of us have very rich internal lives. Some of us have internal lives that really need a kick in the pants.
Need to tune up.
Right?
I'll get my toolkit out.
Hey, don't let your accent come through. We worked a lot to get rid of that.
My dad worked a lot.
Mood.
Now I'll just go and work on my accent a little bit more now here.
Oh God.
Okay. Whereas gender expression is how you choose to interpret that internal sense of self into the world.
Right.
So yeah, does that sound about right to both of you?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm going to move on to the importance of self-exploration, because I think this is actually going to be the real meat of everything.
Right.
So, before I was Bryn the Valk, y'all are going to get to hear my dead name.
Oh.
Fun. And I'm not worried about it because I've already had Turfs and Truscum go through my online accounts and find my dead name and message me with it. Haha. It didn't work. Instead, you're just like, hey, look at how far you came. Look at how beautiful you are now. Haha. Okay, so, I used to be Jared,
I don't even think you can find my legal name online anymore.
right? And I'm
Good.
definitely not telling anyone. They'll kill me first.
Well, every time
Okay.
I ever remember like anything that your like
legal name.
legal name is because your
My
last
mom's
name is
still.
Badass.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fair. I mean, my last name doesn't really count. I mean, my chosen name Jay is so like commonplace now. Like if you Google even just like Jay last name, you'll find a ton of other people with Jay last name, and
Right?
it's just like, I did it good. I'm
love
now indiscernible.
I am indiscernible. I love that. Okay, so I used to be Jared, the kind of scary bouncer guy. who weighed 300 pounds.
Is it weird that I never thought of you as intimidating or scary?
A little bit, because like most people did.
I just thought you were adorable. I was like, yes, I want to be friends with this person.
There's a ton of fights that ended just because, like, I stood up straight.
Yeah.
And started laughing maniacally.
I laugh when I'm nervous.
I mean,
And I get
normal.
nervous
It's
before fights.
Right, it's a typical human reaction, to be fair.
Right?
And then people would be like, okay, so this person's laughing their butt off
Mhm.
while marching towards me, getting their hands in fisticuff position.
Murder
I'm-
strut.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go kill Captain America.
They're doing that.
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah,
back
sense.
off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna back off.
But we're not killing Captain America on stream today.
Or not. Not today.
Not today.
At
least not this version. Okay.
So,
I did cosplay Skinny Steve at one point.
Nice. so, for me, I thought I knew myself, because for the longest time, I was like, oh, I don't experience a lot of dysphoria involving my lower bits. And on top of that, I don't really care how I'm seen and perceived, because I never really felt one way like a man or a woman. But then over time, after I started to explore myself more, I realized it wasn't that I didn't feel like a man or a woman. It's that I hated being a man, and I didn't want to be a hyper-feminine woman. I like being the big, muscly, motherly mama bear. That's great. I love it. It's fantastic.
Whereas I prefer to be a twink boy. Fun fact, my name in Brian's phone, is it still currently Jay the Twink? That's beautiful. I was previously Jay the Shapeshifter.
Am I
Or
still Velma
shape-changer?
Dinkley in yours?
Huh?
Am I still Velma Dinkley in yours?
Yes. Your contact icon is still Velma.
Nice.
Another friend of ours who plays on our...
Evidence.
Another friend of ours, IRL, who is a leader, Morgan, her name is still Moon Moon on my phone. It has been for years.
Yeah, I still have her listed as furry, so fun times.
Abby is just Abby, but he has a Mabel Pines icon
Oh, yes.
in my phone.
I love it. Okay, so, why self-exploration is important. So, whenever I first started to explore myself, I felt super bad. Because Abby had came out whenever we were teenagers, and I dived head first into true scum and transmedicalist stuff, thinking, oh, this is clearly the best, and this is how I'm going to be able to better understand and help him and love him. Because I do love you, bro. I got you. I'm gonna flip you off after stream. So, I dived head first into transmedicalist and true scum stuff, and after I started to explore myself and started realizing, oh crap, I hate being a guy, I don't want to be a guy, I got more and more depressed to the point where I was far more suicidal than I had ever been, because I was like, hey, I experienced no dysphoria, so I'm clearly not trans, but something is clearly wrong with me. I got problems, and it's unsolvable, and that sucked. And now that I'm a trans woman, I found that I do kind of enjoy being feminine a lot of the time. I just don't want to be hyper feminine. Right. But the more I've explored myself, the more I've learned about myself, not to flex, but like, I'm kind of straight up having an okay time.
Yay, we're having an okay time. Honestly, I think once I got to the point in my gender expression, whatever, my path to self-discovery, to sound like a middle-aged white woman, once I got to the point where I realized that genuinely I cannot give less of a damn if it's not somebody who is immediately close to me, then I really cannot be bothered to care about what anybody else thinks, because I know I am being true to myself, and the people I love appreciate me for who I am as my true self, and that's all that matters.
Right. Like, the only reason...
My mother finally started understanding what non-binary, like, really is. I was talking to her. Now, to clarify, my mother is very supportive. It's just that she simply was raised in a generation where being non-binary, it wasn't that it didn't exist, but it was never spoken about. Much less like in terms of like being trans at all. You know, she had a couple of friends who were actually murdered because they were young gay men in the 80s. And that just wouldn't fly, right? And I was talking to her a couple of months ago, and I was like, yeah, I'm having another gender crisis, you know, like very jokingly. And she was like, damn it, I wish you could just be yourself. And I was like, and I waited for a minute because I was like, oh God, here we go. And she was like, I wish you could just be whoever you want to be without having to label yourself and having to, you know, justify yourself to other people. I was like, she finally gets it. She finally understands. And to be clear also, I don't ask for complete empathy or understanding from my mother because I know as a cis, mostly straight woman, she will never understand completely. If anything, I don't want her to understand completely. I just want her to support me and to continue loving me as her child and supporting me for who I want to be, rather than what she thinks I should be. And I'm very lucky in that respect. Exactly. I mean, I will never come out to my father's side of the family because I know I would be more disowned than I already am.
Right.
That's just a fact of my life that I've had to accept, and it's very unfortunate, but ultimately, if it's for the betterment of myself and for my loved ones, then I can deal with it.
Plus, I don't want you beating my record of having been disowned.
Yeah, you kind of, you got a running start there.
Yeah.
So, Abby, whenever we were in high school and you suddenly came out to me as, well, it wasn't sudden. If I'm remembering it correctly, oh no, Abby is sad. I'm gonna skip class and go chase him.
Gray has called you a bro dude.
Hey, bro dude.
Bro dude Abby.
But
this is better than Dave.
From that point where you were like, oh God, I think I'm a guy. Do you know what trans stuff is? And I was like, nope, I have no idea. But dude, you're laying down a lot of stuff that I'm feeling very empathetic towards. This is probably going to be...
This doesn't awaken anything in me. The running joke between our friend group is that Bryn and Abby have simply swapped genders. They have taken each other's gender.
I stole your gender in the night. I met you, we were like 15, and I was like...
I steal everybody's
I'm taking
gender.
that.
Yeah.
I have resembled like all of my close friends at least once or twice in my life.
You've not resembled me. Yes, you have.
I'm saying, are you kidding me? I have definitely looked like an adorable librarian one or two times in my life. Cardigans slap. Okay.
They do, though.
They do.
Okay. And turtlenecks. Oh my God. I love turtlenecks.
Dude.
Okay, back on topic.
Anyway. We need to have a fashion stream. Just you and I.
Yes.
Unless Abby also wants to participate.
Probably not. I'm
That's
not good
fair.
at fashion. I like to pretend I am. I'm not.
You know what? Growing up on Tumblr and the age of the Homestuck, I remember.
Oh, God.
Homestuck trigger warning. But I remember when I was younger, I was like, I will never be interested in fashion. That's
Books.
silly. I am merely a tomboy. And I was just like, this is not true. I simply wish to look like a vintage East Saint Laurent ready-to-wear runway. It's just a different type of fashion. I had not yet discovered, what it was that I felt on the inside, I guess.
I just decided I wanted to be Carcat with his pants pulled up to his stomach.
I definitely did wear an outfit or two like that in my time. I think, especially now, in the age of the internet, it's a lot easier to find things. What does that say? I still can't read it, bro.
I do not condone Homestuck.
Oh, that's fair. I don't condone it either.
We're reformed Homestucks.
Yeah,
don't
I
worry.
literally named my cat after a Homestuck. But to be fair, Aradia is also the name of a neo-pagan goddess, so...
That's fair.
I get witchy brownie points for that. Do we want to talk about how religion might influence yourself?
Yes, but there was a point I wanted to get to with Abby.
Yeah.
Okay, so Abby, from the point when we were teenagers, when you first came out to me, to the point now where you are gender fluid, gender fluid, but leaning more on the masculine side. How do you feel that your internal identity, your expression, all that has changed over the years, especially once you got more freedom to actually explore.
There was, like, especially as, like, a very young teenager because I was pretty high dysphoria, especially as a teenager.
Oh, yeah.
And when I got to be an adult, the dysphoria kind of dropped off a lot because I was, able to act and look how I wanted to look and act. But, there was a very, like, it was like a pressure cooker for me to get it right. Because, like, I was in a very, like, traditional gender roles home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my mother has gone on many a rant about traditional gender roles and how they're important and all that.
Which is BS.
Which, yeah, it's also funny because she's, like, the one who works the most, like, out of her and my stepdad.
Right, she's technically the breadwinner.
Yeah.
Brings home the bacon.
Yeah. And then, like, when I was under her roof, there's this huge, like, a lot of control that she had over me and how I even was allowed to express myself.
Or even just exist.
Yeah, or even just exist. Because, like, any opinion that was, like, slightly to the contrary of what she thought was horrible, no good, bad, and that was it. That was all. Only two options. Is either her way or the highway.
Yep, I've been there.
I lived with a person like that too, unfortunately.
And it is one of, like, areas where, like, Jay was kind of talking about, like, how religion intersects into this. Of, like, I was and continue to be Christian, but what that means to me has changed a lot over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because, like, when I eventually crashed into the realization of, oh, so trans is it, that's what's going on. I realized, oh, the way I think about God is going to have to change. Because, like, especially in the environment of, like, the church I was in, which is this close to being a cult.
Ooh, yeah.
There, like, was a patent rejection of anything outside of the norm. And, like, you had to fit in the very narrow labels. And, like, very much you're exactly as God made you, but God wouldn't make you like that.
Right.
And in fact, when I first came out to my mother, when I was, like, 20, that was her immediate, like, but God made you a woman.
Right.
And I was like, God likes to test people.
Right.
God likes to pull some tricks on you.
Right.
And that's something I've used on my mom. Because some of you may not know, I used to be in a cult. And a lot of my family is still in that freaking cult. My sister's building a compound. Right? So,
I think I'm the only one out of our immediate friend group who grew up in a very secular household, I'm realizing.
yeah.
Southern.
Yeah, that's true.
USA
I mean, my
for
mom
you.
does come from Kansas, so she's a little compared to Southern people. But
I love it.
this is a joke. This is a joke. My mother has developed a Southern accent. This is a joke.
So, I remember whenever I first started questioning and whatnot, so I've been disowned twice, minimum. And I say minimum because I've been disowned for other things by specific parts or people in my family. The first time I was disowned by most of my family was when I was about 16, 17-ish, and I came out as pansexual. And I remember whenever I came out as that, my mom was okay with it on the condition that I only dated women. Her thing was like, well, it's okay if you're attracted to guys, as long as you don't act on it. That's just God testing you. That's, supposed to be, this is one of your flaws, this is, everyone has flaws. And I was like, oh God, please stop. But otherwise, she was decently accepting. Well, whenever I came out as trans, it was very, very, very much not. It was very much so, oh, God made you a guy.
You'll always be my son.
Yeah, you're always gonna be my incredibly handsome, masculine, strong boy. Don't you remember whenever you were 14 and you had that growth spurt and suddenly you were 240 pounds and 6 feet tall? It's like, yeah, I remember it sucked.
Yeah.
Nothing was right.
Everything went wrong, mother.
Right?
And nothing can go wrong. Oh no, it all went wrong.
But she continues to this day to try and use religion to point out how I'm not really a woman. And the last time I spoke to her, we had a very intense conversation. By that meaning, I cried a lot. I begged her a lot to please just be okay with me and love me honestly the way that she says that she does.
Be a decent human being for once.
And
The way
she
that
kept
swore she would.
You're right.
and she kept insisting that she does love me. That's why she's doing all of this, because she knows that it's best. And she actually handed me her Bible and said, "You need to read what's in here. I think it will help a lot. I understand you're in a lot of pain. I think you're going about it the wrong way. This will really help you." Now, I am sorry. No offense to anyone who follows any of the Abrahamic religions. I am very sacrilegious.
To be fair, so am I.
Yeah.
I'm technically a minister.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Which is great.
I mean, you can sign. You
So
can literally
whenever-
become a minister in like 10 minutes. Apparently.
Right, so whenever
Thank you
Olivia
for that.
and Morgan and I want to go to Vegas, you will be able to marry us.
Yeah.
But I took the Bible that she handed me, and me being me, I was like, you know what, Mom? You're right. I think I know exactly how to use this to get better, to feel better, and all that other stuff. And I walked over to the trash can, which we had just dumped a whole bunch of food in, and I dropped it there into the pile of wasted baked beans and coleslaw and other stuff.
I was half hoping that you would just smack her upside the head.
Don't want to get the cops. Though.
That's true.
Oh, actually,
Yeah,
your
because then you'll
family
be
might
the
not call
violent
the cops.
trans woman.
Oh no, my family wouldn't call the cops.
Oh, that's true.
Friend's family is
Militant.
insane.
Good, to put it lightly.
Yeah. I mean, bright side, I was the only kid in first grade who knew how to run military drills and shoot a 9mm.
See, they're, what is it?
Death cult?
A couple crayons short of a full box.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
Something
are.
like that.
except it's
Couple.
mostly gray and black crayons.
Yeah,
A couple white crayons thrown in.
Not the sharpest bulb in the drawer.
yeah.
Not the sharpest knife in the Caesar.
Baked beans.
The
So,
fucking bean.
Yeah, I've had multiple people tell me that I should just turn to God to get rid of all my stuff. But thing is,
It doesn't work.
plus
For
doing
some
it...
people it does. For some people they turn to religion whenever they're having a crisis of some sort and it works for them, but it doesn't work for everybody, and I think we need to remember that.
I was meaning in
Like
the
as a
sense
whole,
of like
you know.
praying the gay away.
Right.
yeah,
I was
that
literally
doesn't
just
work.
watching a video on people who have survived, have gone through conversion therapy, and I don't think people realize that conversion therapy these days is not the electroshock
abuse.
and the lobotomy. It's not so physical anymore.
Yeah,
It's mental, emotional,
yeah.
gaslighting. That's what it is. Bottom line, it is gaslighting.
It's kind of like what
like real
autism...
gaslighting, not Twitter's definition of
I have a
gaslighting.
really good... So it's basically what conversion therapy is for the LGBT community, is like what Autism Speaks is for the autistic community. They're not in there trying to fix something. Instead, what they're doing is they're using conditional PTSD to program in certain traits and aspects to repress what comes naturally to a person. Like what my family did for me because I was too compassionate. So they literally had me go out and find... They had me kill animals on the farm to try and get rid of my empathy. So yeah, that's what this is it's a type of PTSD that is being conditioned into people to try and repress their natural instincts, their natural them.
Right.
And it's terrible, and it sucks, and it's bad, and repressing a natural part of yourself like that is harmful, incredibly so. And it takes years of therapy to get through it.
If anything, there is more damage done trying to undo it than there ever was having done it in the first place, you know?
Right?
Because in order to recover from those sorts of things, Oh, the babies have so much to say.
Maybe
on
we
this
should
show.
let in one baby.
Here, I'll go get
A single baby.
a
single
single
baby.
Not the doctor. He does have a bad habit of peeing on Bryn's bed.
I
No
will-
other beds, just Bryn's.
I will grab the daughter. She's probably the one screaming. Oh no!
No, it's Skull. Hi, buddy.
There's a boy. There's also a Radia, but she is comfy, so I will not disturb.
Okay.
Crap, what was I talking about? Oh,
Anger.
Crap. Yeah, I saw cat and my brain went lit. Brain dead. Only
No thoughts
cat.
head empty.
Only cat.
Cat. I don't remember what I was talking about.
Yeah, for me, like, I spent a lot of my teen years trying to pray the trans away, and like, even after I figured, man, that's not working. That's actually not a good thing to do, and not a good thing to try. My next step, instead of like, trying to find peace with who I was, or like actually do self-exploring, was just like, hey God, can you send me a sign so I know what the fuck's going on? Excuse my language again. Can you just send me a sign so I don't have to think about it?
In terms of language.
Right? Sorry.
I'm so bad about it on the server.
It's like, can you just tell me? And that's not how God works.
Right.
Like, whatever your opinions of God's existence or whatever, that's not how God works.
Right.
He doesn't just give you a thing on a silver platter. He's like, no,
Right.
figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, you have to work for it.
So let's actually do a dive into how religion would affect not only self-exploration but also gender identity and gender expression.
Well, I'm the outlier here. I grew up in a very, very, very secular household. The only time I went to church or anything of the sort when I was younger was because my paternal grandmother, my dad's mother, would take us to church if we were over at their place on Sundays, because that was just what they did. Mm-hmm. They were a good Southern Christian family. They went to church every Sunday. I'm pretty sure my grandmother was actually a Sunday school teacher at one point. That's just what they did. But for me, it was never part of my daily routine. My mother was not religious at all growing up. I mean, she was the children of a very, very true hippie and a biker. So religion for her was not something that was present in the household, at least not in terms of like, what it is where we are now. Like in terms of like your childhoods respectively, or even your parents' childhoods. That just wasn't an aspect of her growing up. There was a period of time when I was in late elementary school, early middle school, whenever I did go to church on a regular basis. I still have a Bible that has my legal name on it, and I still keep it because it's from somebody who I consider to be a family member, and she's still very dear to me, and I keep it less for the fact that it is Bible and more it was a birthday gift from somebody I love.
Yeah.
I identify as, pagan, agnostic. I don't feel that I'm Christian anymore. And for me, growing up actually, my mother was a hedge witch for a decent part of my adolescence. Sir. I just look over and there's a tiny paw. But, so I grew up in a household where it wasn't that religion didn't exist, but it was, we were free to explore whatever it was we wanted to explore, and for me, that just happened to be, like, pagan witchy things. And I think, that especially within, like, pagan religions, Wicca and Hoodoo and other things like that, is certain, like, a lot of, actually, like, First Nation, like, religions and things like that, you will find a lot more people who identify outside of the binary. And to be clear here, this might be a controversial take, but it's the truth. The gender binary, as we know it in Western society, is inherently colonialist. It is racist.
It is.
110%. If you doubt the validity of my my claims, my statement of fact, I encourage you to look into it actually because it's very interesting.
It is.
A little depressing, but interesting.
It's a little depressing, but it really will broaden your horizons, and especially if you are younger, that is an aspect of queer history. If you are young and trans,
That doesn't get whitewashed a lot.
right? That is an aspect of queer history that you need to brush up on,
Right.
especially if you are a white trans youth, because that is something that we all need to unlearn as white trans people, or even just white people in general, white queer people. But I feel like personally, I was much more open about. Not necessarily more open about my struggles with gender identity in terms of like religious things, but I am very, very grateful to have never had the literal fear of God put in me due to my gender identity or my self-expression or anything like that, or my gender expression. And I recognize that it's an outlier. I am far beyond lucky in terms of that. There are some people who went through conversion therapy and did not survive.
Right.
And I will thank my lucky stars until the day I die that I never had to be put through trauma like that.
Right.
I can't imagine it.
And then you have individuals like me where I can't. Abby has a totally different idea of God than most Christians that I know.
That's right. She is squirming.
I personally cannot.
No,
It's Stevie.
it's Dr. Klein.
It's a
Don't you
doctor.
pee.
Don't pee on my bed.
Sir.
I'm gonna keep an eye on you, kid.
Well, he has 3 different eyes. I'm watching
does.
him, so I think he'll be okay.
But then you
I like
have
how we're just
individuals.
gradually putting in more cats.
But then you have individuals like me where I can't do the thing that Abby's done, where he's changed the way he interacts with his faith and
Right.
views God and stuff like that. For me, God is a violent thing. It is a very... I remember growing up and crying in fear because I was... From what my grandparents had taught me, what the cult had said, and all this other stuff, I was constantly afraid Armageddon was about to come and I was going to be butchered and it would be painful and I would suffer an eternity of constantly increasing pain. And that is still one of my biggest fears. There are still moments where I will sit here and be like, oh crap, I'm starting to have some thoughts about faith. If there is an afterlife, I'm just de facto going to the bad place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary, and it is. And so for me, a lot of me getting to the point where I could explore myself, getting to the point where I can express myself honestly and authentically in a way that is healthy for my mental health, actually did require me abandoning that religion and abandoning a lot of what I learned. And I honestly don't believe I could be a part of any of the Abrahamic religions, no matter how accepting whatever church I'm in is,
Right.
and still be who I am. I don't think that's possible to me due to all the PTSD that I have with that.
It's just not something that's feasible for you in terms of your
Exactly.
mental health.
And like, that's a thing that, like, I very quickly had to become okay with.
Right.
Because, like, there's a thing where Christians are basically taught from day one, proselytize, proselytize, proselytize. And very quickly I was like, that's not going to do anything but make Bryn hate me. So I just didn't.
Right.
Thank you.
And, like, while, like, we have our religious discussions about, you know, exactly why I believe what I believe and why Bryn believes what she believes,
Right.
like, it's never in the sense of we're trying to,
Convert one another.
yeah, it's in the sense of we're just trying to get each other to understand what we think,
Right.
where we're coming from.
It's more of trying to meet on equal grounds than it is trying to entice one another to the other side.
Right.
And because, like, I feel a big part of this, maybe my own, like, religious upbringing is kind of the middle ground here, because until I was about 8 or 9, we didn't really go to church that often. It was, like, every once in a while, maybe a couple times every month or so. And so I was, as a very young child, in a pretty a-religious household. But when I hit about 9 or 10, we started going forget the pun, religiously all
fervently.
all the time, every week. If we were even like 10 minutes late, Mom would start having a conniption about it. Because we'd started going to my stepfather's church, and that church is the one that I said was like this close to being a cult.
Mm-hmm.
They had a bunch of weird beliefs, especially about speaking in tongues.
What is that, Protestant?
It was actually like a non-denominational.
Oh,
it
that's
just
interesting.
there was just this weird obsession with speaking in tongues.
Right.
There was actually like a bit of church drama. That was my favorite church drama. That was a younger preacher who used to preach there, like sent off an email, and he kind of made a joke about speaking in tongues, like kind of making fun of it a little bit, but like lightheartedly.
Right.
And he accidentally BCC'd another elder in the church who was one of those very fervent believers in speaking in tongues and all of that. And it blew the heck up. This preacher got accused of being literally possessed by a demon.
Pardon
was
me, but Jesus Christ.
He was one of the few pastors who I could actually listen to. Yes, could stand. I could listen to a sermon and actually stay awake.
Right.
I'm a narcoleptic. That's hard. We had this old daughtery preacher who's like in his 80s. I think at this point he has passed away. But
crotchety old man.
He would go off on the wildest tangents, and a session of church with him was basically like, I've got to make terms with myself. This entire next hour is going to be gibberish. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have any idea what's going on.
Buddy.
Are you playing with the other kittens? Oh, no, he sees a bug.
Sir.
To move off a little bit. So, my gender expression and exploration couldn't really be explored while I was in that environment.
Right.
Because it was very much God had these... the religion I was in had these very set in stone religious roles, or gender roles, and if you deviated from it, you were going against God. So they really couldn't exist a lot. And once I left the cult that I was in, I kind of had this huge space that I needed filled. And don't make any jokes.
I'm to out loud.
And so I turned to...
I wouldn't have thought of a joke if you didn't say anything.
And so I turned to Norse paganism, because that's what I had been raised with. I had been raised with a bunch of neo-Nazis, so Norse stuff was something that I was already accustomed to.
Is that really a prevalent thing?
Super, yeah.
They like to twist things around, even though, the Vikings...
Have people not seen Loki?
Right?
They don't
read
just Thor.
They don't read the myths either.
Yeah, because Thor has cross-dressed a time or 5.
Yeah. Odin has an annual battle with another god where they have sex with each other, and they keep coming up with a draw and being like, we'll settle this next year.
Yeah.
Norse
mythology is very queer.
But I turned to Norse paganism and Norse shamanism to kind of fill in that void. But I noticed very quickly there were kind of two major subsets. There was one set which was very racist.
Right.
And then the other set that was very queer. And I noticed quickly that the subset that was racist weren't really Norse pagans. Instead, they were Christians
wearing silly
hats and claiming to be pagans, claiming to be shamans, claiming all this other stuff.
Appropriating it, honestly.
Yeah. Whereas the actual Norse pagans I met that were very non-racist and very, very queer, because I've noticed there seems to be only those two.
Right.
I have never met a straight Norse pagan
That's interesting.
that wasn't racist.
That's interesting.
Every Norse pagan I've met that was really cool and wasn't racist turns out to be very queer.
And it's funny because I'm under the impression that straight racist Norse pagans think that everybody from Scandinavian or just Norse mythology is white. And that is in fact not true.
It's like, no.
They were very culturally diverse.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Right.
there was a lot of trade with so
Right.
many other kingdoms. Like they traded with Egypt.
Right?
Right.
And they had a huge thing on, like,
Not
taking
to
in other
mention they're
cultures.
right by Russia and Asia, so
Right. But yeah, and that kind of put me at a crossroads where I had to kind of
there's actually
pick.
a lot of Slavic influences in Norse mythology. If you look into it, it's really interesting.
There are. But I was kind of at a crossroads where I had to pick. Am I going to go back to being racist, or am I going to go with something
We might
different?
need to kick the boys.
We might.
They are roughhousing in the background.
Boys being rowdy.
That's the real meaning of boys will be boys. They will throw each other against doors in the name of sport.
But yeah, I had already been very used to being racist with the cult, because they taught, and I honestly believed a lot of what they taught, some very disgusting things. Like that white people were meant to be in charge based on what God had ordained, and all kinds of other stuff, which was very stupid.
Right.
And so I was put in the position of, oh, there's this Norse racist stuff that I'm already super accustomed to. And then there's this other stuff that is very much against everything I've ever known and scares me a little bit. But these people over here seem a lot healthier, a lot better. They're not angry, they're not sad, they're living.
They're content.
And I decided to give them a chance, and it got a lot cooler. Everything was a lot more peachy, and there's a lot of stuff on, like there is this one guy that I met once whenever I was in a bookstore, and, like, big, burly guy, massive muscles, all this other stuff, and, like, I was kind of afraid of him, and then he's like, oh, you're looking at the Norse stuff. Yeah, I really love Norse stuff too, and I was like, oh god, here we go, oh god. And
Brace myself for racism.
Right? And then he's like, yeah, my favorite being in Norse paganism is Hela. I have a whole shrine dedicated to her. Check this out. And he started showing me his nail polish and all this other stuff.
That's kind of adorable.
Right? And he had a sword and a shield and an axe, and he was like, yeah, you want to know what's really masculine and what's really manly and what's really, like, all this other stuff? Fighting. You know the hardest part? Hardest part?
The hardest part is when you forget to eat your fiber.
You want to know what the hardest fight I've ever had was? Looking into myself and realizing I have issues and going to therapy.
Oh, bless his heart.
And it put this huge...
Not to be
huge-
Southern on Maine, but bless his heart.
In a genuine, not
Great
Southern
ass.
as Southern screw you kind of way.
Great
Right,
ass.
I
Was it
stopped
good nail
myself
polish?
It was crappily done nail polish, but he was proud of it. He
My
took a
nail
lot
polish
of...
is so awful right now.
Mood. I still got pink nail polish, like, on my nails from weeks ago.
Oh yeah, that's a thing that happens. Like if you paint your nails, FYI to people who paint your nails, if you paint your nails using polish that has like high concentrations of pigment, regardless of what color it is, it will stain your nails. It's literally just a cosmetic thing, and your nails are fine.
Right. If your nails are like a little yellow, it's fine.
Don't bleach your nails. It's bad. It's bad for your nail beds. It's bad for your skin. Don't do it.
Okay, we're gonna save that for the fashions. Okay, so, but yeah, I learned a lot from going towards that route, because I learned, like, because for the Norse pagans that actually follow a lot of what we can figure out about the Norse teachings and whatnot, there's a lot of pride to be had in honestly expressing yourself. And so you will see guys wearing dresses, guys wearing nail polish, guys who love pink and are unabashedly like, oh, check out my Hello Kitty plushie. And you'll find women that are strong and like, oh yes, check out my muscles. And it's great. And it's less that the roles are reversed, and it's more that the roles come together and they interweave so tightly and so beautifully. And there's...
It's kind of like there's the T chart. We've got our like eraser. We're like, yeah, we're just gonna erase the brackets here.
Yeah.
right? And that's a thing, is there's a lot of strength to be had in exploring yourself. If you go on to explore yourself, it's going to be hard. I I've been stabbed. I've been impaled. You know,
I think we just need to have a stream where it's just like our most outrageous life stories.
right?
It's a Bryn only stream because she has the most outrageous life out of all of
I
us.
didn't ask for this.
Bar none.
Twice. Once in the face, once in the stomach. Impaled.
I cut my thumb open once on accident.
You've been impaled too. You fell on a thing.
I didn't.
Didn't it rip open your...
Oh, it wasn't an impaling. It was just like scraping.
Oh,
It was an ouchie.
god dang it. Well, anyway, you know, I've been through some crazy stuff,
Morbid stories aside.
but the thing that's hurt me the most has been exploring myself. It has been coming to terms with who I am and choosing to live honestly. And it's like cutting away a cancer, is how I would describe it.
Right.
It's painful. It hurts. It leaves you sick and weary and frail.
Boys.
Babies. But afterwards, once it's gone and you started recovering from it, you feel cleaner. You feel brighter. I feel like I could run up a mile.
Right, you probably could. You're really in shape.
Thank you. I mean, I did I have a new thing. I was able to do 28 push-ups. But strong mom.
Boom.
It doesn't look very impressive when I do it.
Right. But
I am lethal to wink.
it's painful. And it's better. It's like taking a hot shower where you scrub yourself super hard. You feel raw. You feel
Spiritual
all the heat.
exfoliation.
But you come out feeling so clean and so much better. But sometimes you gotta take another shower.
Right.
And it's important to constantly explore yourself, because, like, who knows, maybe I'm a trans girl right now, and I'm super okay with it and all that other stuff. But maybe years down the line, I'll realize, you know what, I just kind of really needed to break out of that box that the religion put me in. You know what, maybe I am a guy. Or maybe I'm gender fluid or non-binary.
I mean, whenever I originally came out to my mom, I was a cis lesbian. And now I'm a non-binary bisexual person. You know, I've talked about this a little bit on the server before, but gender and sexuality, even if you are within the binary, is always very fluid and it's ever-changing. Even if you stay within, like, the labels that you have originally assigned yourself, even things like your preferences will change and the way that you express yourself will change. I think that, especially like gender expression, is very determined based on your life experiences, not necessarily your identity, because that is like an inherent thing within yourself. Yeah. But the way that you express yourself and your gender identity will certainly change in accordance with your life experiences. I think on the topic of like self-discovery, I think that we know, or I'm assuming that chat is familiar with, you know, the overarching idea that humans are inherently afraid of the unknown. Mm-hmm. And I think confronting the unknown within yourself is one of the hardest things to do.
Oh, yeah.
That's why whenever I hear somebody come out in any capacity, you know, gay, straight, any, what do the kids call it nowadays? The alphabet mafia?
Yeah. We'll break your kneecap.
I'm literally the youngest of you, and I'm like, what do the kids say?
As the kids say.
Right. But I always commend them on being very strong within themselves and being very courageous. Can I have my speech?
Sorry. You're saying how you feel so old, even though you're one of the youngest of us.
I haven't even turned 24 yet.
I know, but I remember this thing. So I had a patient once who was like 17, and I was asking them their age.
That's what my mother meant whenever she said I was an old soul. But
I was asking them their age. Their mom wasn't around, and they said, well, you know, I'm like 16, 17, but I'm like 100 in gay years.
Yeah, man, that's how it be. Although I do want to say, like, not to make the funny serious, but young queer people absolutely need
to age faster.
We do, but we also need to recognize that the reason why we have so many conservative boomers is because we simply do not have the amount of queer boomers that we should have.
They died
because of the AIDS crisis
AIDS
and
epidemic.
a number of other things.
Entire generation.
It really did.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we should have another stream talking about queer history.
I think that would be good.
I feel like even though by standards we are still young queer people, we are in no way elder gays, but I feel like, this is kind of a tangent, but I feel like the younger generation of queer people is fairly ignorant about our history and about, the people who paved the road before us.
Yeah.
It was not only with sweat and tears, but our own blood.
Right. I've noticed that there's a huge trend recently where a lot of queer kids, if they know anything about Stonewall, all they know is that it was a riot. They don't know that it was started by a black trans woman.
Right.
They don't know a lot of the things that were going on in the area at the time that caused this riot to really be possible.
It took forever for them to even admit that the first Pride was a riot. Mm-hmm. That Stonewall was in fact a riot. I think within the current day and age, we have a lot of negative connotations with the word riot, but sometimes that's what we need.
So riot.
We need to raise hell.
I am not against rioting.
Yeah.
Period. I am going to sit here and say don't hurt innocent people, and a lot of people are going to try and twist my words and be like, well, look at all these BLM rioters. And it's like, they're not hurting innocent people. Lives over property, my dude.
Fun fact, like within queer history, did you know that the first gay bar to ever have unblackened windows was in San Francisco?
Nice.
For a long, long, long time, if you were any kind of queer establishment, especially gay bars, they would paint their windows black so that, partygoers or whoever, like, within the building were not seen and they could not be arrested for any of the activities that were going on within the building because, of course, you need a warrant to go into the building and investigate, theoretically. Right. Eye roll. I don't know if the camera caught that, but eye roll.
Most of what was going on in those buildings was people getting drunk, maybe a little frisky.
Yeah, or just queer people existing in a queer space.
Yeah.
Right.
And I believe it was in San Francisco. I could be wrong, but I remember seeing some kind of documentary on it, and now we're lucky enough to have a gay bar not even 30 minutes away. It's right. Like, it's a 15-minute walk if you take your time. I
love living in the city.
Right. And the fact is that where we live, like Bryn and Abby live in a very liberal part of a very conservative state.
Yeah. We're literally called an oasis.
Yeah.
Because, like, in one of the... And this statistic is old, but in one of the censuses that happened, this actually occurred before the Trumpster fire.
Oh my god, that's a fantastic phrase for it. I love that.
That's what I've been calling all the Trumpsters, or Trumpster fires.
That's beautiful.
And I refer to Trump as the Trumpster fire.
I'm stealing that like I stole your gender.
Fine, criminal. They play a rogue. Wait, what are your pronouns today?
They, he.
Okay.
Of course, yeah.
He plays a rogue. Of course they do. But
yeah, of course I do.
Right? But,
it's either a rogue or a wizard. Take your pick. Sorcerer probably would be more apt, but...
Probably. But in one of the censuses that happened before the Trumpster fire, there was a thing that was like 30% of our city's population identifies to some extent as LGBT, with over 60% identifying as an ally, and the vast majority identifying as like, oh, we're not specifically LGBT or an ally, but we're definitely open.
We'll vibe.
Right? We'll vibe. And it's like, even then, whenever I came out at work, it was like a little Civil War sounded. Or a little Civil War started. I gotta remember not to use Southern phrases. So sounded doesn't mean started everywhere.
Depending on which space you are, it has a very different meaning.
Right.
Abby, I love you.
Abby.
I wasn't gonna say anything besides that. Don't worry.
Thank God, children.
But yeah, whenever I came out at work, 3 trans people that already worked there but had transitioned before they came to work in surgery actually came to me to be like, hey, are you okay? We're also trans. If you need to talk, if you need an ally, if you need someone to have your back, we got you. But then in addition to that, it became like a handful of the transphobes were like, we are hardcore going to oppose this for the children, for the good of the women.
Overrun.
Right? And
if you're a girl, why do you still use the men's room? Because you only use the girls' room.
Right.
Because people like you make me feel unsafe, person who I will leave unnamed. who has asked me this question constantly. But yeah, and it was like...
Yeah, I've just accepted the fact at this point that I will never have a correct method to use.
Right?
That's a real non-binary struggle.
Yeah, the amount of people that came out to support me, it was great. I have a reputation at work. I am very quiet, extremely efficient, and I literally have the nickname, the bitch of the OR.
Mm-hmm. I was literally just about to mention that.
Because my thing is, I will be efficient and get things done, and I will follow protocol to the letter.
Bryn is such a workhorse, you'd think she's a Capricorn.
But because I follow everything to the letter, no one can get on to me.
I love Capricorns.
So it is a very good thing in medical. I've been mentioned in a lot of hospital-wide emails between various people that I didn't know knew who I was.
Stop being a jerk to Bryn.
On the topic of you being out at work, I think whenever the bill that was that they actually overturned here in Arkansas, where they were trying to basically out every trans youth in the state, whether to the detriment of them or not. I remember I was like in the middle of a breakdown about it, and I was talking to my best friend, the platonic love of my life, and I mentioned to her, I was like, I feel that my job as a queer adult, or even just a queer person who has the ability to be open, it is almost my responsibility to be open about my identity for those who either cannot or for whatever reason cannot express themselves. It is my responsibility as a member of the queer community and as a queer adult to set examples for those who will come after me and those who came before me.
It really will. And
that's even more important as somebody who's outside of the gender binary, because
they keep trying to set the clock back on when the gender non-binary was quote-unquote invented.
Right, not to get on a soapbox, but we are, I like to call myself the ultimate unicorn because I am bisexual and I'm non-binary. I'm everything that the trans meds hate. You know? And I feel it's very important if you can and if you feel comfortable being open, because for some people being stealth is their only option for the sake of their mental health and for the sake of their well-being. I have a friend who is on the outside and in his professional life completely cis. He's a cis woman in his professional life, and he has a different, he has a preferred name, a different legal name or whatever, but online and like with his close friends, with his husband and things like that, he lives his true identity as a man.
Yeah.
And that's how life works for him. That is how he is comfortable. And I will never, ever look down on him for that, because that is what works for him. It might not work for me, but if it works for him and he is happy and he is living his best life because he is, oh my gosh, then all the power to him.
And for some people, it is legitimately not safe to come out.
Right.
And this is a thing.
I mean, for instance, my friend Dante, the one I was talking about, he actually works in a very male-dominated profession. And it's interesting that he chooses to present himself femininely within his profession. He's a data analyst. He's a programmer. But I think he's all the stronger for it.
Yeah.
I think he understands that he is doing a lot of good the way that he lives his life.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of him.
Right. So, to continue
he's a good deal older than
talking what I was talking about with the hospital, the amount of support I had was honestly overwhelming.
I'm officially a driver.
I had guys that would stare at me and make comments in the men's room, which was... But, one of my coworkers started actually waiting for me to come into work. That way he could walk with me inside and then get changed with me, facing away from me and facing anyone who would stare at me. That way, if anyone is staring at me, he can now move in front of me, basically freaking naked, and be like, "Why are you staring at me, dude? Are you gay?" And he is just an incredible ally. And I once had this guy try to follow me out to the car after making some very, very transphobic comments in the changing room. And he walked with me out to my car. He acted as a witness to security. He actually put in a complaint because I was afraid to. Like, he was a good ally, and I've had a whole bunch of people do this kind of stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one reason why, like, I kind of feel that I need to be out as trans. There's nothing wrong with transitioning and then going stealth. You know, if you're a trans man, trans woman, and you don't want anyone to know that you're trans, that's okay.
Right.
It's okay. We love you. You're valid. There's a lot of trans medicalists that sit here and say, oh...
I mean, Nikki Tutorials was stealth for so many years.
Right?
We didn't know she was a trans woman until 2020, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that was only because like somebody doxed her.
Yeah.
Right.
It was because she was being threatened.
Right. But yeah, a lot of trans meds will sit here and be like, you need to transition, you need to do it in this specific way.
Right.
You need to pass 100% of the time, and in addition to that, you can't tell anyone that you're trans. If you're not going to have the bottom surgery, and if you're ever going to tell someone you're trans, then you're just looking for attention.
Right.
But the problem is, if it wasn't for seeing people like Natalie Wynn, like Abigail Thorne, like the various transgender artists that I listen to and that I follow, if it wasn't for people like Cavetown, people like Abby, people who I had known that were trans,
right.
that I had seen transition, that I had seen before and after who they were and who they are now and how much happier they are, on top of how they look and how they're able to live.
Right.
I don't think I ever would have had the strength or courage to start transition, and I am so much happier than I ever was.
For me, it was cosplayers growing up, because I'm a giant weeb, obviously.
Right.
Look at me, I'm clearly very cis, very heteronormative.
Very heteronormative.
For me, it was Twin Fools, or Lucas. Growing up, he was a very popular Naruto cosplayer, actually, and he spoke pretty openly about his transition in a time where you didn't talk about that, especially not within the cosplay sphere, because you just didn't talk about your personal life in the cosplay sphere at the time. And I was 11 or 12 whenever Lucas started transitioning online. Mm-hmm. And I actually got the pleasure of meeting him a couple of years ago, and I was this close to just hysterically sobbing, because it was people like Lucas and other trans cosplayers and pinnacles of fandom and communities that I was in when I was younger. I had a friend when I was younger in fandom chat rooms who came out as non-binary, and that was the first time I had ever heard of it. Oh boy, I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me. And they were so kind to me in explaining things, because by the time Aaron came out, I was already identifying as transmasculine. I was a trans man. That was what I was at the time. That was how I identified. And I was like, there are things besides the gender binary? What the hell? It's almost like this sense of wonder.
Right.
It's a whole new world opening up to me. Thank you.
Like, for me, I knew that trans women existed.
Right.
But it was also Twin Fools who, like, I watched,
this
like,
is now a Lucas appreciation stream.
Right? I watched, like, his first, like, video about, like, I'm going to start taking tea, and I was like, right. You can do that?
Right?
You can trans your gender?
And I do want to be clear.
You can go into being a guy, you can do that?
Right.
And I do want to be clear, because I've gotten questions before why I try to put trans men first, like with my ASMRs, which I need to finish the MTF ASMR. I'm sorry, I've had a lot going on. I do plan on having that out before I go on vacation, before I go to South Carolina. But one reason why is, I'm just going to be real with y'all, trans men are represented way less than everyone else. Whenever you think of a AFAB trans person, the stereotype is the uwu gender fluid.
Boy.
Right.
Which, to be fair, I enjoy being an uwu soft boy from time to time, but And all the power to the trans men and the trans masks who are soft boy. If that's the way you want to express yourself, that's fine. But ultimately, it's infantilizing,
Right.
and it's in a way, it's fetishizing our identities.
It really is. Viewing,
Not even in a way, like borderline, it is.
right? Just like it's fetishizing to view all trans women as either. And this is one of the reasons why I'm happy that I got to see trans women actually transition over time, like with Natalie Wynn, is it's just as fetishizing to view all trans women as either, oh my god, super hot, sexy objects, or super hyper bearded men covered in glitter claiming
The
that
Huns.
they... Yeah.
The is what Natalie puts it as, the Huns.
It is fun to be an soft boy, and it's
It
okay.
is fun to be an soft boy.
But just trans men and AFAB transgender individuals are not represented well in the media whatsoever. And it's like, at least with, AMAB trans individuals.
Also, note to the media, please stop portraying trans masculine people as binding with ace bandages. That's not safe.
Right?
Bad idea.
Don't do that, please. I don't want to see another trans
That
man in
causes-
the freaking ER because he...
Snapped a rib or whatever.
And this
Thank
is outside, because there is a lot of trans med rhetoric that will tell you that binding in any way is not safe. And while that's true to a certain extent, you can bind safely using proper binders.
Right?
But I was reading a manga the other day. I actually recommended it in the server. It's called, if I remember correctly, it's called Boys Lead the Riot or something like that. And the protagonist is a trans man. He's a trans boy. And he binds with bandages. And it's a fairly popular series right now. It's just starting to be localized. And I hope to God that later on down the line he gets an appropriate binder or something like that. Even though this story, like this manga, is written by a trans man, it's still very damaging to see that portrayal of trans masculinity
It is.
in the media, because it's, in a way, it's hurting us more.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know better. Like, I remember whenever we were young and growing up, there was not a GC2B. Is that what it is, GC2B?
Yeah, I think so.
They're a fairly new company. I didn't start wearing binders until I was 18 because I didn't have, number one, I didn't have access to them at all, and number two, they didn't exist in the way that they do now.
Like, my first binder was a crappy little thing that I got from, like, a Chinese knockoff company, and it legitimately would start to kill me. I felt my ribs trying to dislocate.
Right. I
after
did
5
bind
minutes
with
of wearing it.
bandages whenever I was in, like, junior high, because I was experiencing dysphoria in a way that I had never experienced it before, and I didn't know what else to do. And my mom and my stepdad did put a stop to it. I don't think they understood at the time why I was doing it. They were just concerned for my health. But I wish that we could bring back the binder donation posts that were so popular back in the day. I don't know if any other, like, 20-something, 30-something trans people, like trans masculine people, remember this, but whoever's watching who's within that age range. But for the kiddos, there used to be a lot of binder donation posts, and not necessarily crowdfunding or organizations, but especially trans people, like trans mass people who had top surgery, would turn around and donate their used binders to young trans people.
Nice.
And I want us to bring that back, because I feel like we need it too.
Yeah.
We still need it.
Because
That's super cool.
that's actually how I got one of mine. It was like a t-shirt style
Right.
binder, and that's how I cosplayed with Dean Winchester for forever. Because until then, all of my binders had been like the sports bra
Right.
looking ones. And I actually did a binder giveaway years and years ago, but it got lost in the mail, and I felt so bad because I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't do anything. I couldn't find my original receipt for the binder, so I couldn't get on the post office about it.
Right.
And it just vanished.
It's terrible. But yeah, to get back on track here a little bit,
Technically, this is
I want to be out. I want to be
Right.
seen for my transition. That's why I'm so okay with sharing my pre-transition photos, and why the TERFs and trans meds and stuff like that that have doxed me and have sent me pictures of like, oh, look at how handsome you used to be in this photo. Look at all of your beard hair that's so apparent still. It's like, you know what? You're right. Look at all this beard hair that I used to have. Look at how far I've come.
Right.
Dang, I am freaking pretty. I am beautiful.
Malicious compliance. I feel like that's the term of the day. Malicious compliance.
It's the vibe.
Right?
That's the vibe.
But I want to be there for others
Right.
in the way that so many people were there for me. And like, Natalie Wynn has removed most of her videos from before how she looks now, which is okay. You know, everyone, you gotta stay in your comfort zone. I'm not gonna fault her for that.
That's how she copes.
That's how she,
That's what's good for her.
Whereas me, I want people to see my change. That's one of the reasons why whenever I started transition, I started a YouTube channel and I started an Instagram, is because I wanted to have this timeline that people could look back at.
Right.
Especially because I want so much of my content to focus around transgender stuff. I want people to be able to see me and to be able to say, look, this is the progress they made. Look at how far they came. Look at how good they did. I can have that. Because for the longest time, that's why I never pursued transition, because in my mind, the stereotypes had infiltrated really deep. It was like a constant buzzing in my ear that there are two kinds of trans women. The super hot, sexy supermodel that is going to be objectified to heck and back. And then the person that looks like a guy in very poor drag who is making everyone uncomfortable with his massive amounts of body hair.
Right.
And it wasn't until I had seen people like Natalie Wynn, and until I had seen Abby and seen how different he is now and how much happier he is, that I sat down and thought, I can do this. I can do this. The only thing keeping me from doing it is me. And once I came to that realization, suddenly it wasn't even a question of, am I going to transition? Am I going to do this or that? It was, I have to. I can't justify not doing it. I would be so much healthier, so much happier. And I'm still exploring myself. I've actually found that since I've come out, I've started exploring myself a lot more. I used to be so bland. Like, for real, I was. You can kind of ask Abby. I was kind of...
Yeah, you wore like the same thing every day.
I had 4 outfits.
Yeah. And you cycled
4
through
meals.
And 4 meals. It was funny whenever Abby and I first moved in after high school, because, like, all of Abby's stuff took a trailer and then a vehicle and some other stuff. Me, I had my desk, my computer, and my monitor, 1 box of clothes, 1 box of cookware that my family had given me, and then a box of knickknacks that was, like, yay big.
I don't know if you ever realized this, but did you ever notice that you used to purposefully wear your clothes oversized? And now I look back on it and I'm like, Bryn, were you trying to wear dresses on the low? Because I remember that was one of the first things that you started like wearing actively once you were once you came out, because you were like, I want to wear a dress. And I'm like, wear the dress! You adorable little beast! Wear the dress! I am aggressive hype man. Like if you're like, oh, I want to wear something, but I don't know if I feel comfortable. I'm like, do it. Do the thing. That's gonna be the whole fashion stream. Like if we do a fashion stream, it's just gonna be me chanting in the background, do the thing.
Okay.
Yes. Here, I'll stand up. But it's I think an important part of gender expression is like, even if ultimately you don't feel like, for a lot of trans women, obviously I don't speak from personal experience, but a lot of trans women tend to be very hyper feminine when they start transitioning, I've noticed.
It's fear, honestly.
Right? And
because, like, I was so afraid sorry to
No, you're good.
interrupt, but, like, I was so afraid of, if I can't be seen as super feminine,
Right.
I'm not going to be taken seriously, I'm not going to do all this stuff, and I'm so clearly, obviously, ugly male,
Right.
that I have
guess
to
it's the same way
compensate.
for trans men too. When I was younger and I first came out to my mom about my dysphoria, she was like, okay, then I guess we're going to go through your clothes and like donate all of your feminine clothes. And I was like, that was the first time I think I realized that I was not entirely binary, because I was like, but there are still things that I enjoy wearing that would be considered feminine. And I think that was what kept me flip-flopping. I've come out as trans, I don't know how many times, because I went through this, trans masc, because I went through this process of trying to reconcile society's views on masculinity and what I should be as a trans masculine person and what I wanted to be. Because there was so much pressure to adhere to this pinnacle of masculinity that I simply am not. Ultimately, I feel like I'm an androgynous person with a feminine lean, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love makeup, I love wigs and cosplay and fashion and jewelry, and I enjoy cooking and all of these other, like, stereotypically feminine things. But at the same time, I still consider myself to be transmasculine because I still want to get top surgery and, you know, maybe start T and, you know, so on and so forth. And I think an important part of your path to gender expression and, like, expressing who you are as a person, or your path of gender expression, rather, is to change when you feel like you need a change. Don't resist it, because resisting change will only make it worse in the long run.
Exactly.
It's like when, very, very, like, kind of in a almost literal way, it's like when you get some sort of small injury.
Right.
Like, if you immediately, you know, you get a bad splinter, if you take the wood out, wash your hands, put a little ointment or whatever, put a bandage on, you'll be fine.
Right.
If you ignore it...
If you let it fester, it'll make it worse.
Yeah, it'll
get an infection.
And for some people, that type of change doesn't come around on a regular basis. For some people, they will dress the way they do. Morgan, for instance, even though she's a cis person, Morgan has literally always worn t-shirts and jeans. All of the years I've known her, that is her preferred sense of fashion. Mm-hmm. And it's only the last couple of years that I've known her that she's really started branching out more into more, like, feminine dress, like skirts and things like that. But for me, it's almost a daily basis that I change, because that's how I feel, depending on the day. And for some other people, that's not how it is. But I still feel like I've learned to lean into the change more than I have to resist it, because... And this is just like an overarching theme in humanity, but change is not always a bad thing. If anything, I would view change as a neutral thing, because you, depending on what you do in response to the change or with the change, you can make it negative or positive.
Yeah.
It's a necessary evil in a lot of ways.
I agree.
In every way, honestly.
Like,
it really is.
As an autistic person especially, I hate change sometimes, but, like...
On the other end of the spectrum, I hate being stagnant.
Yeah.
Because it's like, maybe that's the ADHD, maybe that's the personality disorder, blah, 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 blah. But I can't stand being the same way for too long, because it's like I feel shut in a box. But for some people, that box is their safety zone, and they like sitting in the box. And I'm like, good for you, but I'm going to go hop in this refrigerator box now, and I'll return to the cat box tomorrow. You know? Like...
See you later. Like, I too have, like, the jeans and a t-shirt, like, that's my style, typically. But, like, I've noticed, since I started T, it morphed. Because, like, not just because I started wearing men's jeans and t-shirts, but, like, also, instead of, like, wearing, like, funny, sparkly, graphic tees, I'd, like, wear, like, more, you know, neutral stuff, or, like, stuff that was more, like, funny, but not sparkly.
Right. I went through a phase where I bought a bunch of graphic tees that a 14-year-old white boy would wear. I still have a good deal of them. I have one that says, actually, this is my favorite one. At least I listen to the bands on my shirts. It's in, like, a bootleg AC/DC font. There's also the gamer tee that says, what is it? You think your lag is bad, it took Jesus 3 days to respawn.
That's funny.
So, yeah, honestly, there was a period of time where I was just dressing like a 15-year-old boy in graphic tees and jeans and sneakers and with my big old nerd glasses or whatever. And sometimes I still dress like that because that's the way I feel that day.
Hey, Wasabi, I forgot your name and pronouns. But Jay, they make a good point. What about a multi-roomed box where each room has a different theme and style?
Yeah, that's honestly my gender expression.
Yeah,
because that would be a cool box.
Right, that would be a cool box, because it's like, it's still me within the box, but I'm allowed to move freely within the box.
Okay, so this stream has been going on for an hour and a half. Oh, nice. Hey, Will. So I think we may need to wrap it up since we got other stuff we got to get done today. So, let's spend like the next 10 minutes. So, what do we really want to impart with the theme of gender expression, gender identity, and the incredible importance of, no matter what, still exploring yourself? For me, I'd like to say, especially to whatever parents happen to see this in the future, if any, if your child is exploring their gender, stuff like that, it's totally okay. Just chill, breathe, relax a bit. Let them wear that dress. Let them wear those pants. Let them try something out. Hair's going to grow back. It's going to be okay.
Eyebrows will grow back too.
Eyebrows will grow back too. I shaved mine off on accident.
Me too.
I shaved mine off on purpose.
And they may be cis.
Mm-hmm. For some people, it is genuinely just a quote-unquote phase, but I think cis people who have explored their gender identity are stronger than any other cis person.
Exactly. Because think about this. You know, you have all these women that are like, oh, I want my son to be, you know, a feminist and to be very good towards women. Let your son explore what it's like to be a woman. Let them see how hard it is to live in a world without pockets. In a world where, like, underwear is crazy expensive.
About transition.
Where do I keep my knives? How am I supposed to keep my ID? What about my freaking hammer? Or my...
Bryn has actually taken away some of my more feminine-leaning pants because they actually have pockets.
Right.
But I've also embroidered flowers on them because I'm lazy and there's holes.
Yeah, that's right.
I need my knives.
She needs her knives, her sparkly rainbow knives.
Yeah.
Knives aside.
But... yeah, and puberty blockers can be reversed.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's okay. Just breathe a bit and relax. Why don't you explore it with them?
Right.
That's one heck of a bonding thing, because I'm thinking if I had a kid, you know, they're like, oh, I think I might be trans. First thing that would happen in my head is, oh, okay, let's go clothes shopping. Let's, you know, have a little fashion run, you know? You can pick whatever you want. It doesn't have to be super masculine or feminine.
I do that with my little sister.
Chill. Exactly.
I've literally, from the day she was born, almost, we have always taught her that, you know, gender is not the clothes you wear or the colors you choose or whatever. It's whoever you want to be. If she feels like she has dressed her boy dolls up in dresses and dressed her girls up in suits. You know, I think it's important to teach our children that they do not have to stay within a box that society has labeled them just because they are AFAB or AMAB. Like, I would have done the same if she was my little brother. I do it with my little brother.
It's like learn a particular lesson from cats. It's nice to sit in the box, but only if you put yourself in that box.
Right.
If somebody else puts you in there, you can jump right out.
Right.
Exactly.
I think my personal message overarching is lean into the change. Let yourself change and morph and transform, for lack of a better word.
For me, like my kind of overarching, right? My overarching phrase is: it doesn't matter what they think about you. It is what you feel like on the end, like how you feel about it. That is the important thing.
Right. Here's my overarching motto of life: if I'm not hurting you, myself, or anybody else, it's not your business, and I am totally fine.
And that's actually a lesson I've had to learn from both of you, because the more my transitions started to roll, the more self-conscious I got, and what little dysphoria I had started to grow more and more as I was like, I am way more aware of all my facial hair, of my body hair, of my... Exactly. And there came this time when it was after Morgan had given me all of, like, a huge amount of clothes, and Abby and I had kind of swapped wardrobes. Mm-hmm. So we really did steal each other's gender.
I steal everybody's gender.
Mood. But I was sitting in my work parking lot crying because I was about to have to walk into work. I had forgotten deodorant, so I felt like, oh god, I smell like a guy, and I can't smell, so that terrifies me. Because I assume everything stinks really bad. And for some reason I always assume I smell like hot dog. I don't know why.
Inside
I don't even know what they
Becky.
smell like. I just assume
she
I
smells like hot dogs.
Hot dogs are tasty.
And in
Uh,
if this is any consolation, never once have I thought you smelled like hot dogs.
but
Not once in my life has that ever crossed my mind. Wow, Brent
But
smells
I'm-
like a hot dog today.
but I'm about to walk into work. You know, I don't have any deodorant on. I feel like I'm gonna stink. I feel like, oh god, I look disgusting. I look fat. I look all this other stuff. And I look down and I think, I'm wearing a Wonder Woman t-shirt. Given to me by Morgan after we went on a hike for several hours.
Right.
I can bench press most of these people. I've literally had to carry people that weigh more than most of these people. I can hold my own against them. Why am I afraid of them?
Right.
Like, what are you gonna say, Becky? Oh, I can barely notice your stubble today. Thanks, Becky. Yours is very noticeable, though.
You need to go get that waxed.
And I was terrified, but, like, I thought for a second, I'm about to blaspheme. What would Abby and Jay do? Because, Jay, you have before gone into places with whole ass fucking leg hair out on display,
Oh yeah.
rocking it, right? Rocking it, and just really pulling it off. And Abby, you constantly put forth this thing of like, I'm gonna dress for me, I'm gonna dress
Right.
comfortably, and I'm gonna dress in a way that I like. And if anyone has a problem with it, they can have a problem with it. And for once I did that, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my thing, they're not gonna say crap, and if they do, I'm just gonna throw the shade right back at them. And next thing I know, it was like there was this huge weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started taking some pride in it, like, hey, yeah, I got some stubble that's kind of apparent, and I need to go shave it right now, but I'm kind of pretty.
I do that semi-frequently. I forget when it was, like when precisely it was, but I was like, damn, I'm attractive. I think that's an important part of any transition or any self-discovery whatsoever. Realizing that you are an attractive human being.
As the resident arrow ace, I've never thought, damn, I'm attractive. I thought, I look huggable.
That's beautiful. I love that.
I love
you are very huggable.
I've decided that's my gender euphoria like goal is just like the dad figure who has
Right.
like, you know, he's a bit round, but he's got a plate of cookies.
That's so cute. I love
it.
I love that for you.
But yeah.
That's the true dad friend.
And there does come to a point, because like I've been looking at myself in the mirror before, and I've thought, I am attracted to women as well as men.
Right. I forget how it was exactly you put it. If you don't see yourself as attractive, then you're not necessarily your own type. I think is what it was.
But there did come to a point where one day I'm looking in the mirror, I had just woken up, I had bedhead, I'm in my underwear, I'm in my PJs. I'm in my PJs, which are they leave very little to the imagination. And I get up, and I'm going to, like, use the restroom and get myself something to drink, and I have this big mirror hanging on my door, and I, like, stop to look up, and I'm, like, putting my hand through my hair, and I'm like, oh god, I would date this woman. She's kind of hot.
Right. That's always a beautiful moment. Like, sometimes you just gotta check yourself out in the mirror, man.
And actually, funny
I
story.
do that a lot, taking my makeup off at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take my wig off, or, like, I'll pull my hair down, or whatever it is, and I'm just like, damn, this is kind of a look.
But yeah, like, the first time I saw myself as, like, because I always felt like a woman, and I always, like, saw myself as not being a guy. But the first time I really saw myself as being a woman was in a window, walking home from work, It was some person's office, and I didn't realize they were in there until the next day. But I'm walking by this window, and for a split second I think, wait, did I just see a woman in there that had my same hair and clothes? And so I, like, have taken a couple steps back, so I take a couple steps back to be back in front of the window, and I look inside, and then I realize, oh, that was me. I was the girl wearing my clothes.
Right.
And then the next day, the person who was in the office was like, "Hey, why'd you stop by the window in my office yesterday?" I was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were in there."
Sorry, I was having a euphoria moment, bro.
Yeah, good times. Things change, and it is important to lean into it. You're gonna be okay. We love you, and we got your back. So, yeah, I think we're going to have to call it here. Thank y'all for being guests on here. I actually wouldn't mind doing other streams with y'all in the future. Like, the queer history one, fashion one. I definitely want your help with that.
You get to see the many forms of Jay.
Right?
I think next time I might stay out and keep the cats company so they're not like, "Morale! Knock,
knock, knock.
Morale!"
They're tossing
That's a
their
mood.
bodies against the door. Their bodies hit the door.
Oh, Lord. Okay, I love
twist,
y'all.
For the fashion episode, I'm going to show up in the ugliest outfit I own. And it's not even going to be cute ugly. Like
Oh, whatever. You're always cute. Get over it.
Thanks.
Facts over feelings, libtard.
I'm going to show up to the fashion episode looking like a 2000s mall rat.
Mood. Dude, when's the last time you watched Mallrats?
I haven't watched it forever.
Right?
I watched it when I was like relatively little because my brother was into it.
I've been rewatching that show 16. Dude. Goals, man.
Okay, well, it was nice getting to talk to y'all. This was a fun Fashion Tuesday. We love you and you're awesome. If you're not part of the trans server, you should totally join it. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. We started doing a bi-monthly movie night. We have a weekly call. We are going to be doing a whole bunch of other stuff soon. I'm trying to work on getting more stuff up and going. And y'all are awesome.
We have a weekly writing prompt that currently no one really answers, even though I need to
write up one for this.
Not everybody gets inspired. It's okay.
Yeah, Gray, we might start a Fashion Tuesday.
Oh, hell yeah.
Heck yeah, I'll let Jay run that.
I have great stage presence.
Right? So,
Or I am a thespian. I'm still certified.
So yeah, it's been great. If you'd like to support me and what I do, both on the server and on Twitch and YouTube, you can find my Patreon in the Twitch description-y thingy. You can also go and find my YouTube. It's Brynhilder Underwood on YouTube. There's a link to that here too. I'm trying to get better. I got an actual mic. 2 of them. And a camera. God, y'all remember?
Improvement. That's the theme of this Topic Tuesday. Self-improvement.
Some of y'all remember the first videos I put out where it's literally me laying on the ground with my phone as a camcorder.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
I love y'all.
Brynhilder here.
Yeah.
It's like those ASMRs when it's like a young girl talking to her boyfriend on the phone. It's like, "Hey, Billy."
Yeah.
Hey, Billy. How are you today? So, I was thinking about you. Do you want to go to the Point tonight after work?
We can get snow cones.
I can bring you an ice cream.
Food court stuff.
Yo, they have this new place in the food court. It is like totally bomb. I am like for real cereal right now. Like, oh my god. And if we don't go, I swear tonight I'm gonna go to Jal. Okay?
Oh my god, guys, we have to go to Abercrombie and Fitch. They just released their new line of beige.
I could never take a step into Abercrombie and Fitch.
There is a real life khaki barn. It's called Abercrombie and Fitch.
Right? I go in there and like they have perfume misters.
Oh my
to the
god.
ceiling. I can't deal with
They give me
perfume.
such a bad migraine, bro.
Do you want to rob a bank,
And the lighting
Billy?
in there is awful.
I always want to rob
How
a
does
bank.
anybody look good in Abercrombie and Fitch lighting?
That's
They
rude.
don't. That's the point.
Okay.
Anyway,
So,
my beef with mall lighting aside.
any ideas for what we should make for the next stream? Y'all don't have to be a part of it.
Are you kidding me? I've been part of it once, now I never want to leave.
Okay.
Just the camera will turn on. You're just in here eating a bowl of cereal.
Yeah, honestly, that wouldn't be far from the truth.
Okay, I'll put up a few options in the server so that y'all can vote on it. Let's go ahead and say queer history.
Yeah.
Frequently asked trans questions.
Frequently asked queers.
Right?
Queries! Queries! Hey!
Oh my god.
I got the dad friend approval. That was a good one.
I want to flip you off so bad right now.
Just do it behind your hand.
So yeah, and I may actually reach out to the mods over at Ask Transgender to see what, to see if we can partner up with them a little bit for some of that. Yeah, I'll put some other options on the Tran. You can vote for it, and we'll get that set up. And Jaybird, if you want to be a part of the next one, that would be awesome sauce.
I'm a bird. That looks like Nightwing! Oh, that's... Oh, I love Jason Nightwing.
I love
Even
it.
though Jaybird comes from Jason Todd, and I'm really more of a Tim Drake. I'm just an amalgamation of all the Bat Kids.
Hey Ann, you're kind of late to the stream. We're just about to log off.
Yeah.
You can always catch the Last Topic Tuesday on my YouTube, because I always upload last week's to my YouTube. And I look forward to seeing you in the Portal 2 stream. So that happens in a few hours. We love y'all. Y'all are awesome. Bye. Did you just flip?
No, it's a heart.